Hi, I'm Laura, the Library Lady, and thank you so much for joining me for this episode. Today I will be discussing Thunder Cake by Patricia Polacco. I love Patricia for several reasons. Number one, she's a great writer and illustrator. Number two, she is from my home state, Michigan. But unlike me, she did not grow up in Detroit. She grew up in the country. And number three, she's dyslexic like I am. And she's a prolific writer. She has written so many children's books. And even though they're chapter books, some of her books are very serious. She has one that covers the Civil War. She has another one that talks about her dyslexia. And so even though she has picture books, some of her picture books, the vocabulary is tough enough for a child in 6th grade. So let's jump right in and find out more about Thunder Cake. On sultry summer days at my grandma's farm in Michigan, the air gets damp and heavy. Storm clouds drift low over the fields. Birds fly close to the ground. The clouds glow for an instant with a sharp crackling light, and then a roaring, low, tumbling sound of thunder makes the windows shudder in their panes. The sound used to scare me when I was little. I loved to go to Grandma's house. Babushka, as I used to call my grandma, had come from Russia years before. But I feared Michigan's summer storms. I feared the sound of thunder. And we have a sound of a plane going by. I don't live far from the airport. I feared the sound of thunder more than anything. I always hid under the bed when the storm moved near the farmhouse. This is the story of how my grandma, my babushka, helped me overcome my fear of thunderstorms. And believe it or not, even though you hear a plane in the background, growing up in Michigan, we used to have pretty bad storms. And I can remember being outside and just seeing the sky turn dark. And my grandmother, my big mama, my father's mother, was from the South. Well, all my grandparents were, but this particular grandmother came from Alabama, and she hated storms. And here in Maryland, we have storms all the time. And this summer, we've had a whole host of them. So what does Grandmama do about the storms? Let's keep reading. Oh, and here we have the little girl and her grandmother on their farm in Michigan. And Michigan, we think of Detroit, we think of Lansing, we think of Pontiac, we think of Flint, we think of the car industry, and we know the difficulty that Detroit's having now. But a lot of Michigan is rural. There's Kalamazoo, there's Grand Rapids, there's Traverse cities at the Upper Peninsula. I've been to a lot of those places. Michigan is right here. That's what Michigan is, your right hand. So, Grandma looked at the horizon, drew a deep breath and said, "This is thunder cake baking weather, all right. Looks like a storm coming to me." So we see the animals on the farm and we see Grandma. "Child, you come out from under that bed. It's only thunder you're hearing," my grandma said. And we look and she's under the bed, and that's a quilt. That's a quilt on her bed. So there's all types of quilts. And I've talked about quilts in other books and other episodes. The air was hot, heavy, and damp. A loud clap of thunder shook the house, rattled the windows, and made me grab her close. "Steady, child," she cooed. "Unless you let go of me, we won't be able to make thunder cake today." "Thunder cake?" I stammered as I hugged even closer. "Don't pay attention to that old thunder, except to see how close the storm is getting. When you see the lightning, start counting, real slow. When you hear the thunder, stop counting. That number is how many miles away the storm is. Understand?" she asked. "We need to know how far away the storm is so we have time to make the cake and get it into the oven before the storm comes, or it won't be real thunder cake." So here Grandma is with her little baby girl, her little granddaughter, and here's the cat. Now the story goes on, and they go all over the farm and the little town to get all the ingredients. and they do make their thunder cake, and they do eat it. And on the very last page, you have the recipe. So this is a great book because I've actually used this in elementary schools, and we've actually baked a cake and the kids have actually eaten. Now when we do things in school, we have to get permission because children have allergies. But this is a great book because number one, it has rural versus urban, so if you live in an urban area, it's good to know about a rural setting. And if you live in a rural setting, this confirms what you already know. It helps children overcome their fear of storms and a method of doing that. And then it's a great story about a grandmother and her grandchild, a little granddaughter. And so that's very important. I was very close to my grandparents. So having that multi-generational connection is so important. And having those grandparent moments when a grandparent shares something with their grandchild, that's very special. And grandparents are hopefully being a grandparent and they don't have the added responsibility of being a parent. But if you do, thank you grandparents for stepping in. Also, I love the fact that it has the recipe because this is a great way to do functional reading and following directions. And what's so great about it, you all can work together. And anytime you're working with a young child in a kitchen, please make sure you use safety so the child doesn't cut him or herself or get burned. So always make sure all your utensils are clean and the kitchen is set up, and then have the children help you clean up afterwards because making stuff is fun, but sometimes we make a mess. So this is a great book. Please check it out. Once again, it's Thunder Cake by Patricia Polacco. It's a great book. You can get it on Amazon.com. You get it at your favorite bookstore. And you know what I'm going to say. You got it. You can check it out at your public library. And Patricia has so many books. You can choose so many. Her website, you can check her out. You can even check out how she does her artwork. She's such a great author. So enjoy. Thank you and happy reading.